Hello everybody, here's Christian Lamitschka for Country Music News International, and today on the show we present you
Richard Schroder from Boston, Massachusetts in the US.
Richard, it's your first time here on Country Music News International, so please do me a favor and introduce yourself to our readers and listeners.
Sure, again, I'm Richard Schroder. I'm a country music singer-songwriter from the US, and it's great to see you all on the show. And I have a new album out called Drive that came out a few months ago, and it's on the radio, and I'm excited to be here today talking with you.
So tell us a little bit about the album. How many songs on it, and what's your personal favorite?
Sure. There's 11 songs on the album. It's been out for 3 months. It was an album that I worked on actually for 5 years. So I had recorded it initially, and I ended up being introduced to some people that helped me to really understand that it wasn't done yet. So I actually rewrote it again. So I worked on it for another 2 years after it started. So it was a little bit of a labor of love in terms of putting it out. I had been in bands before for a long time, and I'd put a few albums out with bands, but this is my first kind of coming out with my own work under my own name. So just tried to get it right, worked really hard on it. It's 11 songs. The first song is called Drivin'. It's currently just broke into the country breakout charts on Music Row. It's at number 67, so it's climbing the charts, and I think that's my favorite right now. It's the first single, and it's kind of a song about a musician being on the road trying to get back to the woman that he loves. So it's kind of about chasing your dreams as a musician, but then being in a relationship and being in love and trying to get off the road to kind of get back to somebody. So I think it's something people can relate to, even if you're not a musician.
Did you wrote the song by yourself, or did you co-wrote it?
I co-wrote it. Most of the writing is myself, but my producer Brian Charles also helped me with a lot of writing, and I have a mentor who's a fellow by the name of Steve Seskin, who's a 7-time #1 hit songwriter, and he's been my mentor for a couple of years now. So he's helped me to really kind of get to know the craft and work on my music as well. So, but most of the writing is myself and my producer Brian Charles.
So what's the story behind your current single?
Well, it was Drivin', so that's the song that's on the radio now. A lot of the way that I write songs is they kind of come to me in the middle of the night. Usually the way it works is there's a song rolling around my head, so I get up in the morning and I try to get it down on my iPhone and just try to get a clip. So that was a song where I had kind of a guitar riff and just a melody in my head. So I got up very early in the morning. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just started to get the song down. And I worked on it for a number of years, and I actually recorded it. That's what I said. I had the album done the first time, and it just wasn't good enough. It didn't end up being what I wanted it to be, and so we kept working on the song, after we recorded it the first time. And then there was a night in the studio that Brian and I were writing, and the song was originally called Trying to Get Back to You, and we started playing around. Well, that's not really that good. What about Drivin'? And somebody came up with that, and we kind of came up with the concept of a musician being on tour, trying to get back to someone that he loves. So we once that happened, we started writing it in the studio, and it was one of those moments I kind of got lucky, and within 40 minutes I kind of had the lyrics scoped out, which never happens. It's always like, for me, lyrics take a long time. I think it's the hardest part for me anyway.
But less than 5 years.
Yes, exactly, yeah. But in that moment, it's like once we got the direction and we started, let's make it about a musician, and we started writing it, and it kind of came together, and then we worked on it with Steve some more and rewrote it another dozen times, and now you have it, and here it is on the radio. So it's a lot of work.
So what's the biggest difference to be now under your own name on stage?
Well, it's different being by yourself. When you're in a band, you kind of have your buddies with you. You're in the van. You're able to do things together. It's a team effort. Being on your own, you do a lot of things on your own. So you have to wear a lot of hats. You know what I mean? And there's nobody to kind of help you out with a lot of things. Obviously, I have a team and so forth, but you have to really be on things, and so it's a little low. It can be lonely. You know what I mean? But then again, you kind of are able to make decisions and go at your own pace and work on the music the way that you want to work on it. So there's pros and cons to everything. I love being in bands. I was in a lot of bands in about 10 bands in my whole lifetime. And so I was very used to that. So this has been different. This is more about just really making sure the songs are the best that they can be. And then I was also more of a rock musician before, so this is my first time kind of being in the country market. So that was a kind of a shift in terms of genres. So a lot of differences for it.
So how is a typical life for an independent artist?
It's a labor of love. You know, it's just constantly trying to work on radio, trying to work on press, you know, Spotify, getting you know, streaming going, working on social media, trying to write more songs, trying to play live. There's just a lot of things you just kind of have to keep doing it constantly, and then you're trying to make a living and you know, and hope that people connect with the songs that you do. But it's basically half music, half business. You know, you have to have great songs in order to try to make something successful, but you also have to know how to market it and talk to people like yourselves and see if you can get the word out so people can hear your music. But they're both equally as important, and you got to spend half your time making music, half your time, you know, trying to connect with people and get it out there. It doesn't work. So you got to have great music, and you can market as much as you want. If the music's not great, it doesn't work. So it's just a combination, and it's hard. It's hard to be successful at it. There's a lot of easier things in life than trying to make something or create something and have people try to connect with it, you know. So that's the typical life.
Okay. So what's the better part by your job, to be a songwriter or to be an artist?
Oh boy, you know, it's weird. I like both parts. The writing, I think, is the hardest part, at least for me anyway, because it's just, you have to be patient. You have to keep rewriting, developing your skills, understanding your craft, and really making sure you're working with the right people. And I feel like the business side of it doesn't really, it's almost not important if you don't have something really good that you think you can market or connect with people on. So I think it all starts with the song and making the very best song, because if you don't have the songs, it doesn't matter how much you market. I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of stuff that's out there that's probably not, you know, people say that they wouldn't like, but so I think that the songwriting is key, but you know, you have to do both. You have to, you know, you can't just not tell people about it or play it live or try to get it on the radio or get it on Spotify or anything like that. So it's really just a symbiotic combination of those two things that I think is, but I think your question was, which do I like better?
Yeah.
I think I'm actually more comfortable on the business side, but I love the writing. I love that moment. I was writing yesterday with my mentor, Steve Seskin, and it's just a great day when you get a song at the end of that day, you know. And we sat down, and I left his house at 5, and I'm like, wow, I have this song on my iPhone that wasn't there, you know, it was in my head, but that we created in that moment, and that's special. You know, it's a unique thing when you do that, when you co-write as well.
So many music fans don't have an idea what's going on when a show is done. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, you're tired, sweaty. You got to lug your equipment back home. You got to find your way to, whether you're a hotel or you go home, and you're tired. And you know, being a musician is actually a very blue collar effort. You know, it's like, I played a lot of clubs, and I used to, you know, I would load in with the bartender and the cooks and the chefs and everybody in the back. You know, it's not. It's people think it's this glamour, and obviously it is a glamorous thing when you have that moment where everybody's excited about a show, but it really is, it's very labor intensive, you know, playing live. It's especially if you do it for a long time, it's tiring. So it's usually tired and you want to go home.
So, can you remember by your first gig you played?
Yes, I can. It was terrible. It was the most embarrassing moment of my life. Do you want to hear about it?
Yes, of course.
My first gig was when I was in high school, and I was in this band with someone that I played baseball with, and we were terrible. Our drummer was terrible, I was terrible, the bass player was terrible, and the singer was terrible. We were just really bad. And luckily, he was at another high school, and so he got us a gig at his high school, and I was like, oh, that's fine, we'll play at your high school. And I was all very excited that we were going someplace not where I would be known. And then so I get to the high school, and it's a talent show, and there were all these amazing bands. Like, these guitar players were awesome, and they had these huge amps, and they were incredible. And I was just like there with my little amp and my guitar, and I was just really like terrified because it was the first time that I played live. And so we got up there, and then sure enough, the worst part was that some of my friends from high school came to see the show. So there was like girls there, and I'm like, oh no, this is bad. And so anyway, we got up on stage, and we went last, and there were all these amazing bands that played, and then we went last. And I remember my friend was with me over to the right, and somewhere in the middle of our 3 songs, I hear the drums stop. And I'm like, oh. And I was like, and I remember looking over at my friend, and he was gone. Like, he was like, oh no. And I turn around, and everything was like in slow motion in this one moment. And the drummer had dropped his sticks and was getting up from behind the drum set to pick them up while we're on the stage. And everybody was just like, oh, that's terrible. And it's something you shouldn't do. And so like, we're just trying to play, and the drums have stopped. And so he got them back and continued to play the song. And it was honestly the most embarrassing moment of my life. But it taught me a lot about preparation and making sure, when you're going on stage, make sure the band's tight and make sure everything is working well.
By the way, were your parents amazed about it, that you want to go into the music business?
Well, they were supportive, but it's never, what you'd want your son to do, I think. They want you to have a steady job. And I have my own career as well, and you have to find ways to earn money as well, because it's a labor of love. But yeah, I think any parent, they always want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or so forth. But they were generally supportive.
So what's the best way now for fans to keep up to date with you?
The best way is to find me on social media. I have a website. It's richardschroder.com. You can find me there. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Spotify. But it's Richard Schroder, and the album's called Drive. I should have brought a copy to show everybody. Actually, I think we have one over here.
So let's see if we can get one. Yeah, folks, here. First, we can show up. That's the front side. By the way, that's the back side. With 11 songs on it. And we will take a listen later to the CD and see how good it is. So you know now what to do when you first of all like to buy the CD. I believe it's available on Amazon everywhere.
iTunes, yep.
iTunes and so on. You can download. You know now what to do when you want to keep up to date with him. Also, you can stay here with us on Country Music News International, where we keep you up to date about your favorite country star. Best way, join our newsletter. It's daily. So have a great day here from Nashville, Tennessee.